तस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितमेन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा श्रीकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we will continue our discussion on the Vedānta Syamantaka with this Chaitanya Charitamrita quote. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Mukhya Vritye Sei Artha Parama Mahatva. To teach the Vedic literature according to its direct meaning without false commentary is glorious. Unfortunately, Sri Shankaracharya, by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, compromised between atheism and theism in order to cheat the atheists and bring them to theism. And to do so, he gave up the direct meaning of the Vedic knowledge and tried to present a meaning which is indirect. It is with this purpose that he wrote his Sharirika Bhashya commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 7.110. So, yesterday we discussed about Jahad Ajahal Lakshana, or the direct and indirect meaning. Means when we say things like Tattvamasi and all, we should not take the direct meaning, because uh, Tat and Tvam become irrelevant because they are discussing about the same entity, and so Asi, the consciousness alone, has to be considered. So in this way, they arrive at the theory that everything is consciousness only, and there is no conscious individual or person involved in all these things. So this is how they try to establish this theory, but then we saw that how all these things are not supported by Shastras, because Shruti contradicts with this. Then logically also it doesn't make sense, because if we are not able to give direct meaning for Parabrahma, then how can we give indirect meaning for it? That also doesn't make sense. So, in all ways, the indirect understanding is unnecessary and misleading. These are the things that we saw. Any questions till now before we proceed further? Okay, no, if no questions, then we'll proceed further. There are some who affirm the following: being either limited by avidya, ignorance, or reflected on it, Brahman itself is the individual soul, as stated in the Shruti. Akasham ekam hi yatha घटादेषु पृथक् भवेत् तथात्मैको हि अनेकस्थो जलाधारेष्व इवांशुमान्. Just as the same sky is divided within pots, etc., the same soul is situated within many bodies, just like the sun reflected on various reservoirs of water. When avidya is removed by realizing the non dual Brahman, identity with Brahman is achieved, just as by removing the limited adjunct upadhi in the form of pots and so on. There is identity between the ether contained within the objects and ether outside, as well as between the sun reflected on those objects and sun in the sky. This statement of the monist is incorrect. For an agglomerate of consciousness, Brahman cannot be divided by avidya, which is insentient. Moreover, a formless and all pervasive Brahman cannot be reflected. Otherwise, even things like air and the directions would have reflection. Those who know the truth say that to consider the perception of a portion of the celestial bodies as a reflection of the sky is mere illusion, and Shruti corroborates with this. So, what happens is that there is this Shruti Vakya, which the impersonalists quote. And by quoting this Shruti Vakya, they say that like Brahman is reflected, just like the sky is divided within the pots. Now, let's say there are 100 pots kept, and all the 100 pots are filled with water. They will be reflecting, and when they reflect the sky. So in each of the pots, the sky is seen separately. So in this way, there is one Parabrahma, there is one Brahman. That Brahman is seen reflected in many bodies, is situated in different places. So that is the idea they give. So for that, they call it Ghatakasha and Mahakasha. So there are different Akashas. Akasha means space. So space is available at many places. Space can be there in a pot. Space, it is called Ghatakasha. Then there can be in a Mathakasha. Mathakasha means space in a temple. So there can be a space in a pot, there can be space in a temple, and there can be one common space. So there is space in a pot. When the pot breaks, that space merges with the complete space. So similarly, individual living entities are conditioned. Condition means it's the reflection of the reality, reflection of Brahman that is shown in different bodies at different places. When their identity is broken, when they have realized Brahman, that is when it is all one. So they don't see oneness and they don't see individuality at that time. They see everything as one. So this is the theory of reflection that is propounded by the impersonalists. So, the response that is given here by Radha Raman Goswami is that avidya cannot divide the Parabrahma. Parabrahma is superior to avidya. Brahma, the absolute truth, is superior. It is vidya, it is knowledge, and it is superior to ignorance. So, ignorance cannot be the cause of this division. Just like sky and the pots. Pots are not the cause of division. They are the cause, they are just reflecting. So, ignorance is not the cause of division of Parabrahma. That is first thing. Okay. And okay, at least you accept the reflection. We agree that and this Parabrahma cannot be divided by ignorance. At least can you agree that they are all reflected, just like we have seen. So, how can a formless thing be reflected? So, when you are standing in front of a mirror, you can see your face. We can see some objects which are in the house, some other things that are kept around. We can see. Can we see the sky in the mirror? Sky is not conceived directly, also. Even to our own eyes, sky is not conceived. How can it be conceived in the mirror? So, for the reflection to exist, the original one also should have form. Then the form of the reflection, and the reflection also will have a form. So, that is the response that is given here. So, Prabhupada gives a slightly different argument for this in 2.13 Bhagavad Gita purport. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the Supreme exist eternally, Sanatana, and are called Kshara. That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, even after liberation. And even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the super soul who is present in each and every individual body and is known as Paramatma. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in the water, the reflection represents both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to living entities and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the fourth chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then their relationship of instructor and instructed become meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and the other the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to living entity. Arjuna, who is a forgetful soul, deluded by Maya. Bhagavad Gita 2.13 purport. So, what is being said here by Prabhupada is that, okay, you keep 100 pots and the sky is reflecting. When do you say the sky is reflecting? The sky itself cannot reflect. There are some objects in the sky, like the moon, the stars. They will be reflecting because sky itself is formless. It is not conceived to the. It's not perceived by the senses. But the sun, the moon, and stars which have taken shelter of the sky, they are reflecting. And even in the reflection, the moon and stars are seen separately. It's not that they are one. So they are one in they are different in real, they are different in the perception. They are different in the reflection. So similarly, Atma and Paramatma, when the Shruti statement that is said is of pots, they give the analogy of pots, the sky is divided into pots. What it means that the Paramatma is having different forms. Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto matya smritir jnanam apohanam cha. The Paramatma takes, he comes and stays in different bodies and to guide the souls individually. And in each heart, in each body, the Atma and Paramatma will be always staying separately, because otherwise Dvasuparna, etc., the Shruti statements would not be relevant. So, considering that relevancy, also we should understand that Paramatma and Atma are separate and they are separately living within the body. Just like the sky is reflected in different parts, the Paramatma takes so many forms. That is the understanding we should have in this regard. It's not that there is one Parabrahma and that is reflected as so many varieties of living entities. So that is not the understanding. Now, similarly, Vyasatirtha also speaks on Pratibambavada in Nyayamrita. So, Vyasatirtha argues that reflection requires form, it requires boundaries. So, but Brahman is formless and infinite. So, Brahman is something infinite. It cannot be conceived directly with the eyes. How can it be conceived in a reflection? So, directly only we are not able to see. How can we see it in a reflection? So, just like sky, we cannot see it directly, but then how can we assume that we can see in a reflection? So, that is the logical inconsistency that he argues about. And avidya cannot reflect insentient, avidya cannot reflect sentient Brahma. So, avidya is not conscious entity within itself. So, how can it reflect a conscious entity Brahma? That is the thing. And third thing is Brahman is what is that? Avyaya. It cannot change its form. So, when it cannot change its form, how can it produce so many varieties of reflections? So, that is another inconsistency that he's seeing. And anyway, he has also given Shruti Pramanas also. Dvasuparna and Prathagatmanam. These are the pramanas we have discussed. So Shruti pramanas also indicate that Jiva and Paramatma are different, and logic also indicates that they are different. That first of all, you cannot reflect the sky, which is formless. So similarly, Parabrahma is imperceivable. How can it be reflected? Second thing is avidya. How can avidya have the capacity to reflect Brahman? Avidya cannot have capacity. Third thing is Brahman itself is changeless, so it cannot have the it cannot change into Jiva. So third another point is that if Jiva is just a reflection, okay. And one day all this reflection will go away and we'll understand Brahma with Brahmaiva Bhavati. We'll understand that we'll become Brahma only. Then again, the knowledge, effort, teaching, student, disciple, spiritual master, all these things are irrelevant because everything is Brahma. So if everything is Brahma, then who is the instructor and who is the instructed? So for that they argue that instructor instructed is there as long as vyavaharika satya is there, as long as the what is that duality is accepted. We have still not perfected our lives, we are still in the world of duality. So as long as that duality is accepted, we will have instructor and instructed relationship. So, but then that also doesn't seem to make sense, because then are we saying that this is something different from the absolute truth? This duality that is perceivable, is it different from the absolute truth? So, even in that sense, it doesn't make sense. So, the only understanding that we can develop through all this is Jiva is eternally distinct. and at the same time dependent on the Ishvara. Jiva is distinct from the Ishvara, but it is dependent and not independent on its own. So, liberation is called Sadharmya Mukti. That's what Vyasatirtha says. Means attaining divine qualities, not merging. So we are getting those qualities which are conducive to stay near God and serve Him. It is not about merging into God. So that is the thing that is coming again and again. So this is what is that? The theory of reflection or Pratibhimbavad. Now, similarly, there is one more called Aropavada. So that also we will see, and then we can take some questions on this. Uh, some speak as follows. States of being such as God and individual souls are superimpositions on the pure non-dual consciousness on account of ignorance about its nature. Just like blueness is superimposed on the sky due to ignorance about its real nature. By realizing the non-dual pure nature of consciousness, when its states of superimposition disappear, only pure consciousness remains. Now, okay, reflection we are not accepting because the sky doesn't have boundaries, and so its reflection is not seen. We have seen that in reality. So similarly, Parabrahma is even more inconceivable than the sky. So how can it be reflected? So that we will agree that it's not acceptable. Can there be superimposition? Superimposition means you see, when you see the sky, you see blue color in the sky. Sky should not have color because it is more subtle than Agni. Bhumi rapo nalo vayu kammano buddhirevacha. Ahankaram iti me bhinna prakriti. So more than subtle than earth is water. More subtle than water is fire. One quality goes on reducing at each level. So fire has the quality of vision, you can see it. Whereas air, you can't see it, but at least you can feel the touch. Sky, you can neither feel it, nor you can see it, nor you can hear about it, nor you can speak about it, nor you can smell it. Nothing is there in the sky. It is subtle. So, but still, when you see up, you see blue color. So there is something superimposed. Some superimposition is happening on the sky. So, can it happen that Parabrahma also has such superimposition due to which different living entities are perceived? That is the question here. So, this is a hasty statement. For if pure consciousness, Brahman, is not an object of cognizance, it cannot be an object of superimposition. Superimposition of blueness on the sky is possible because the sky is an object of cognizance. According to your view, pure consciousness is not an object of consciousness like the sky. Therefore, this argument is insignificant. Moreover, what kind of knowledge is considered able to remove such superimposition? Pure consciousness itself or vritti? The first proposition is not valid. For pure consciousness being eternal, it would be eternally free from superimposition. Vritti jnana also cannot be, for if vritti jnana factually exists, then there would be duality, and if it is false, how can it remove superimposition? It is seen that only factual perception of a real shell removes the superimposition on the shell. So, here, Radha Damodar Goswami rejects this idea of superimposition. Uh, he says that Brahman is not perceivable. Correct? Naisha Tarkeda Matirapaniya. It is not perceivable by logic. It is not perceivable by pratyaksha. Correct? So, if it is not perceivable at all, how can it be superimposed? On the sky, there is superimposition, true. Why there is superimposition on sky? Because there is some perceptibility. At least you can understand that space exists and there is sky. Just like a room is jam-packed with things and you bring one more bag. Okay, there is no way to place it. But at least, oh, you find, oh, I can put this here. Even most illiterate or even a small child will understand, there is some place to put it here. So there is some perception of sky. Okay, that is why I'm able to keep the things at that place. So some perception of sky is there, but for Brahman, that perception also does not exist. Because some perception of sky is there, I'm able to see some blueness when I look at up in the sky. Whereas with Brahman, I am not even able to see that. There is no hint for our senses that Brahman exists. So How can there be superimposition on that? That is the first thing. Then the next thing is that superimposition is removed by knowledge. That's what they say. For example, when there is a shell on the seashore, on the seashore, you will find a shell, you will feel it is silver, you start going near it. Once you go near, you understand it is just a shell. So that silver which had superimposed on it is removed by knowledge. Correct. Now, if here it is argued that similarly on Brahman there is a superimposition which can be removed by knowledge of Shastra. You have to go to Guru, hear from him, study the Shastra, then such a superimposition can be removed. Now, the question is that on the Brahman there is superimposition. How can knowledge remove that? What kind of knowledge can remove that? So, is it Shuddha Chaitanya Jnana or Vritti Jnana? Uh, the knowledge of Brahman as pure consciousness. Okay, I'll give you an example. So, it's all Brahman, it's all absolute truth. And it is because of superimposition making us feel that there is so much variety in this world. The trees, the plants, the sun, the moon, the friends, the relatives, the wife, all these things are seen because there is superimposition on Brahman. Now, what knowledge will make us remove this superimposition? Is it the knowledge of Brahman or is it the knowledge of Vritti Jnana? Means, is it material world's knowledge that will make us remove the superimposition, or is it the super spiritual knowledge? Now, the Shuddha Chaitanya itself is eternal. Correct. So, the Parabrahma or Brahman is eternal. And Brahman is full of knowledge, bliss. There is nothing other than Brahman. So, how can there be the knowledge of Shastra as a second entity which will help us remove the Brahman? First entity, Brahman. Is there any second entity? No, the Advaitins already said that Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahman. Only Brahma is the only truth, everything else is not there. Now they are saying that no, knowledge will help us get Brahman. So, if that knowledge is a competitor to Brahman or exists separate from Brahman, which will help us know Brahman, then again duality will come into picture. The singularity is broken here. So, it cannot be Brahman itself. That knowledge cannot be Brahman itself. Okay, then is it Vritti Jnana? Is it material aspect only? Okay, now we are in conditioned state, so we accept Shastras, we study Shastras and learn from it. Once we are pure, we don't need any of these things. Is it like that? Now, again, there is a problem. Even if that is the case, then Vritti Jnana, is it Brahma or Brahma? Is it real or is it false? If it is false, how can that falseness remove the illusion? If the Vedic Shastras are false, how can that false remove the illusion? If it is true, then again the same problem that even on Vritti Jnana we have duality. So we have found out a second truth other than Brahma. So in both ways, this theory of superimposition which is removed by knowledge doesn't seem to make sense. Okay, and this is what Prabhupada says about this. In this verse, the identity of living entity is clearly given. The living entity is the fragmental part and parcel of Supreme Lord eternally. It is not that he assumes individuality in his conditioned life and in his liberated state he becomes one with the Supreme Lord. He is eternally fragmented. It is clearly said, Sanatanaha, according to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions, of which the primary expansions are called Vishnu Tattvas and secondary expansions are called living entities. Bhagavad Gita 15.7. Similarly, both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and living entity are qualitatively one. There is no factual difference between the two. The Mayavadi philosophers are again and again defeated by the illusory energy because they think that there is no separation between the super soul and the individual soul, or that there is no super soul. They are misled into thinking that everything is the super soul. However, those who are Kavayaha, the learned scholars, actually know the facts. They do not commit such mistakes. They know that God and the individual soul are one in quality. but that the individual soul falls under the clutches of Maya, whereas the super soul, the supreme personality of Godhead, is the controller of Maya. Maya is the creation of the Supreme Lord, Maya Srishta. Therefore, the Supreme Lord is the controller of Maya. Although one in quality with the Supreme Lord, the individual soul is under the control of Maya. The Mayavadi philosophers cannot distinguish between the controller and controlled. So similarly, Vyasatirtha also says that Brahman is pure, non-dual consciousness. Due to avidya, states like Jiva and Ishvara, this is the claim of the Advaitins. But Aropa can occur only on something perceived or known, but Advaitas claim that Brahman is beyond perception. So, where Brahma is not perceivable at all, if Parabrahma is not perceivable at all, how can there be superimposition on that? Only things that are perceivable can have superimposition. Similarly, Brahman cannot change forms, it is also fixed. So, and it is the whole thing goes against Shruti. So, considering all these things, it is completely illogical to accept that there can be any aropa or there can be superimposition on Brahman. Okay. Any questions till now? You can ask.
Prabhuji,
Ah,
what is the meaning of sky in Vedanta? Means is it the only empty space, or is it the Earth's atmosphere only, or the mix of gases? What is the exact meaning of sky?
yeah. So there are sky is something which is not perceivable to the senses. It has only sound as its guna. Sky's quality is only sound, nothing else. It doesn't have any other quality. Okay. Sky is empty space and any object which occupies space, it has sky element in it. For example, this takes some space. This pots takes some space. So anything which takes some space, it has the element sky in it. Okay. So there are two types of sky. One is called Bhutakasha, one is called Avyakrita Akasha. Avyakrita Akasha is the infinite sky of the spiritual world. And within this infinite sky of the spiritual world, there are situations when a part of it manifests as material world. That is called Bhutakasha. So whenever destruction is there, that sky gets becomes a part of the Avyakrita Akasha or the eternal spiritual sky. And sometimes it manifests and creates the material world. So that is the understanding.
And you said that sound is a guna of sky. Means
Mm.
what type of sound? I did not get.
So sound dhvani exists because there is sky, just like you Gandhavati Prithvi. Smell is there because there is some solid matter in that. Even in the, if you see this perfumes and all other things. Okay. So it has some matter which is floating solid matter, very subtle. That is why that smell is manifested. Similarly, taste. Taste is manifested when there is watery element. Anything which is having a taste, it has some watery element in it. Similarly, fire. Fire is manifest wherever there is form. Any object which has form, it has the element of fire in it. So similarly, air. Air is manifest where there is a sensation of touch. So the touch is the quality of air. So similarly, this quality of sound, it exists wherever there is sky, wherever there is space, sound exists. That is the understanding. So
So
every further element has the common previous elements also. For example, space has only sound, whereas air has both sound and touch. And fire has sound, touch, and vision. It can be seen. Similarly, the next level is water. Water has all these three plus taste. And earth has all these four plus smell. Like that, these are some qualities in each of them.
so they are not the usual which we take nowadays meaning. Means like the sound you said, it is not the usual sound that we denote in scientific language, like reverberation of the matter. It is not like that, isn't it?
Yeah, sound means there are multiple forms. One thing is what I am speaking is heard. Sometimes sound is not perceived beyond a distance, but the Vedic sound eternally exists. Okay, it continues to exist. Even this present day, modern day society, all this YouTube and all is coming because of some waves being transmitted. So some form of sound is being transmitted. So it can be because science agrees that beyond human perception, also there can be frequencies. That is how they have this dogs whistle and all to call the dogs. Now there can be some sounds beyond that perception also. So all that together put is sound.
Okay, okay, Prabhuji.
So what is the cause of the blue color?
Uh, the blue color is because of our defective senses. Our senses are getting the rays of the sun, and in that process, the sun's rays have many different colors. So it is just that one color which is prominently displaying the sky.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, like you have explained two aspects, that by like knowledge, through knowledge,
Hmm.
we like we can get to know the Brahman.
Hmm.
So now, if knowledge is material, through the perception of material senses, then it is not possible, because Brahman is different and knowledge is different. But they can also, the Mayavadis also can claim that Brahman is only one, that Brahman and this knowledge, it can also be same, because the knowledge itself is Brahman. That is also possible, right?
If knowledge itself is Brahman, then what is superimposed? Brahman can be superimposed. Brahman is avyaya. It cannot change its form.
Okay, so that means it's not possible, like having two entities like Brahman and knowledge.
Yes.
There can only be Brahman, but that
Yes.
yeah, got
Sudhanshu
it.
Prabhu has a question. Why insentient avidya cannot reflect Brahman? Like insentient mirror can reflect sentient being. It can reflect sentient. See, a mirror cannot reflect sky. Can the mirror reflect sky? It can show that there is space in the room, but you cannot perceive the sky in the mirror. So similarly, formless mirror cannot reflect air. So now at least sky is somewhat perceivable. I gave you the example of a room. A room is full of bags and you have to put one more bag into it. You open the room. Some place you will find where the bag can be put. So somehow some sky is perceivable some way. But Brahman is not even perceivable like that also. So then how can that Brahman, which is not even perceivable, be reflected? How can it be seen in the reflection? That is the idea.
So according to the Mayavadis, what is actually superimposed on Brahman? Which they are telling that there is some superimposition in
Everything,
Brahman.
everything. You see mango trees, you see banana trees, you see chili, you see everything around you. It's all superimposition. There is only one Brahma. That's all.
But superimposition of what, they don't say. Is
Huh?
it means, superimposition of what on Brahman makes it like
Avidya,
mango
avidya.
or
Avidya
thing? Yeah.
superimposition on Brahman will cause all these things. They say.
But they say everything is Brahman. So how there is something called avidya?
That is where they are getting trapped. No.
Uh,
Mhm. Sudhanshu Prabhu,
So Prabhuji, they will not be able to explain how this avidya is imposed upon the living entity, if everything is Brahman? Will they? How is their? I mean, according to them, what is their response on this?
so Madhusudan Saraswati has tried to respond to it that avidya is not imposed on living entities. It is just a badha, means that just like snake, rope snake example. It is mithya. Next point will be more clear. What is mithya? So when you understand what is mithya, then you will understand that they have done some attempt. I'll explain that to you. I'll read it and then I'll explain. Okay.
Sure.
Sudhanshu Prabhu, I did not get your question. Okay. I will read this till then you can frame it. There are some who say the following: since it is observed that the meaning of the scriptures is that which is unknown by any other means and is able to yield fruit, such non-duality must be seen as an intended meaning of scriptures. Knowledge of difference must not be the object intended by the scriptures, for it is known by other means such as direct perception and serves no purpose in attaining liberation. It is rather mere repetition, anuvada, just as sentences like adbhyo va esha pratarudeti atah saryah pravishati aitreya brahman. The sun rises from the water in the morning and enters into the evening. Enters into it in the evening. See, now they have come up with a better argument. What they say is that we are seeing duality in this world. Correct. We are seeing the sun rises and we are seeing the sunsets. So when we are saying that sun rises in the morning from the water and enters into the water in the evening, so what is the actual benefit of knowing these things? Ultimately, it's the sun that is giving us light and the heat. Okay. So you don't need Shruti Pramanas to prove that sun rises in the morning or sets in the evening. It is known by direct perception. Similarly, the duality in this world is known by direct perception. You don't require Shruti Pramana to understand that the world is dual. Okay. Now, Brahman is not perceivable to the senses. So, for that, Shruti is required. So the direct things in scriptures which speak about duality, which speak about Dvaita, which says that there are two things and all these things, they are just reaffirming what we are seeing in this world. Whereas Brahman is of another world. Brahman is something not conceivable. So when something not conceivable is described, that time this duality is not there. Duality is only meant for the things of this world which are proved by perception. Actually, Parabrahman is beyond perception, and so the Shastras which explain non-duality alone should be taken into consideration. And the things which like Dvasuparna and all, they are not considered important. So that is the argument. It's called Anuvada theory. That is the argument of the Purva Pakshis. Understood the Purva Paksha? Everyone is clear?
Can you explain again, too?
Yeah, you see, in this world we see duality. That is clear. Correct. And Shastras tell about duality. Now, Shastras tell something which we already know, is repeating them. That's all. So, whenever we see duality in this world, we should understand, oh, Shastras are just repeating what we know through our eyes. So, when the knowledge of Brahman comes, it should be something different from what senses tell us. Shabda Pramana, we have earlier discussed Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Shabda. When we say Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Shabda, at that time, Shabda should tell Atindriya. It's something which is not perceivable to the senses, correct? Duality is perceivable to the senses. So, that is why Brahman is something which is different from what is perceivable to senses. So, Brahman, there is no duality. So, the Shruti Pramanas which speak of duality, they are all only for the elements of this world. Only for the elements of illusion, something which the eyes confirm. That is why it's called Anuvada. It's a repetition of what our eyes are confirming. Whereas those Shrutis which speak about non-duality, that are the actual things when we want to know about Brahman. They are the actual important messages. That is the idea. Is that okay?
Yes, yes.
Now, this argument is foolish, for the result of difference is mentioned in Shruti. Pratak Atmanam Prerita Chamatva Jutas Te Tenamritatvam Eti Shvetashvara Upanishad 1.6. Considering oneself as the and the supreme ruler as different, one becomes pleased and thus attains immortality. Huh. So here we are speaking of phala, right? There is no benefit in accepting duality. Duality is just for vyavahara of this world, and eyes only tell you about it. It's just a repetition. Whereas when you know impersonal, then it is really beneficial because we get Brahma. That is the argument of the Purva that is refuted here because Shvetashvara Upanishad itself confirms that once you consider ourselves and the Supreme to be different, then we attain immortality. So the phala is already there, that moksha is possible only when we consider both of us different. Similarly, Justara Yada Pashyatya Anyam Ishaha Asya Mahimanam Eti Vita Shokaha. When one sees that the blissful Supreme Lord is different from oneself and understands his greatness, one then becomes free from sorrow. So, we become free from sorrow only when we understand that the Supreme is great. That is the point. Moreover, knowledge of difference in the form of counterparts distinguished by opposite attributes is unknown in this world. Those opposite attributes are all pervasiveness and atomic dimension and so on, which can be understood only from scriptures. On the other hand, non-dualism is actually fruitless. For in non-duality, there is no fruit to be accepted. Being non-existent, non-duality is unknown like the horns of a man. The scriptural statements about non-dualism are reconciled because the individual souls are pervaded by God and their sustenance and activities are dependent on Him. I'll explain this to you. So, one thing is that there is definitely phala of knowing duality. Of knowing that Supreme Lord is different, I am different. Shvetashvara Upanishad clearly says that we attain immortality by knowing these things. So there is definitely a benefit. You cannot say that it is just anuvada, repetition, no use. Such shastras definitely. Because what happens is that since thousands of years, the Vedas have been used for a karma kanda, deity worship, so that you get to higher planets and all these things, Swarga and all. So they argue that, okay, this variety of different devas and all is to be known only for Swarga Kama, only for material desires fulfilling. You worship a deity and all these things. But the real higher elevated people, they are not into all these things. For them, they are in a state where they know that it's all absolute, it's all one. So many varieties of gods and all are unnecessary. That is the argument. So, whenever they say this God is there, that God is there, that worship is there, that worship is there, it is just a anuvada. It is a fruitless repetition if you want to perceive the highest benefit, is what the argument the Purupakshis are putting. Now, definitely, there is a benefit, is what clearly we have seen in these two Shruti Pramanas, that if we know that we are different from the Lord, then we attain immortality, we will be free from sorrow eternally. That is the one benefit of knowing that they are different. We also see, we also have heard about the opposite attributes in Atma and Paramatma. He is Anu Chaitanya and he is Vibhu Chaitanya. He is the supreme and he is very insignificant. So, such opposite qualities are also there. He is all pervading, whereas the atomic soul is not all pervading. So, those qualities we have seen in this, that means we have heard of regarding the soul and super soul. Now, these things can be understood only from scriptures because Atma itself has to be known from scriptures, Paramatma itself has to be known from scriptures. It's not possible by perception. So, why are scriptures speaking about duality then? If that is the case, why are, if it is just a repetition, then for soul, super soul also, they are speaking of difference. So, why is that? Okay, material objects, the different demigods that are worshipped and all these things you speak about duality, you may say that it is meant for this world only. But why about soul and super soul do you have to speak the difference? That is another argument. Then further Radha Damodar Goswami says that Non-dualism is actually fruitless. For when you say sarvam khalva idum Brahman, then you say you get liberated and you understand that it's all Brahman. What is the benefit? What is the phala? What is liberation? Liberation means that you have just realized that you are Brahman. It's not that you have attained some padam anavya, you have attained some higher place where there is superior benefit. No, in this state only you have realized. So it is there is no such phala that is got by impersonalism. Whereas with personalism, there is great phala. That is the one thing. Vyasatirtha, he emphasizes about pratyaksha. Okay, there was some question about pratyaksha and shabda. Many times pratyaksha pramana is neglected. So pratyaksha is also a powerful means of knowledge because we see variety in this world, pratyaksha. So sometimes they argue that what you see in the world is different from what is in Shastras. So ultimately, Shastra should be given prominence. That is why when you see variety in the world, it is not a pramana. Whereas there is to accept that there is no variety is the pramana because it's coming from Shastra. Brahma can be known by Shastra and Pratyaksha it cannot be known. Pratyaksha we see variety. That is why we reject variety and we accept the Shastra pramana. But no, not like that. Pratyaksha is also a pramana. It is not that we are following one pramana, we are following three pramanas. Three means Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Shabda. So you cannot say Pratyaksha is not a pramana. When I see somebody, when I see some object, definitely it is accepted as pramana. Now, when there is a contradiction with the Shastra, that is when we accept Shastras as important. Not that every time Pratyaksha is always rejected. So, for example, if there is something in this something which is seen, for example, we see the planets and all these things, okay, but we see it one way, whereas Shastras explain about it in a different way. That is when Shastra is considered a superior pramana. Whereas on ordinary dealings, when I am able to see something, definitely I am able to see the real thing only. It is accepted as a pramana. That is the point here. And when already there is Shruti pramana to say that there is duality, Dasuparna Prathak Atmanam, many Shastra pramanas are saying that there is difference. So then Shastra Pramana should override all these things anyway. So these are the arguments. So you cannot just say that because I am not able to see, I cannot, sorry, because I am able to see it is apramana and because Shastra say it is pramana. So that is not the case. When there is a conflict, only when the Shastra, only then Shastra is uh, taken as superior. So to summarize this whole thing, hmm, knowledge of difference leads to bhakti, it leads to surrender, it leads to liberation. Okay. Then if differences were simply reiterative, means if they were just repetitions, then there would be no meaning of sadhana. Even Mayavadis do some sadhana, right? They do some japa, they do some puja, they do some sadhana. It makes it irrelevant. There is no need of such sadhana if such statements are just repetitions. So this difference is very much essential for devotional engagement. Amala bhaktischa tat sadhanam. Devotional service is the only way of liberation, and for that devotional service, the different knowledge of difference is very, very much important. It is not just some poetic understanding of an imagined philosopher. So that is what is discussed here. Okay. Uh, any questions about this section? I'm going a little fast. Is that okay?
It is okay, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, like there is a reference 4.7. It is
Hmm.
mentioned IB. Could you tell like what is that? Maybe uh, maybe down. I think
Hmm.
it's mentioned
I
4.7.
will.
Ah, yeah.
So generally, this I have observed that Kathopanishad they refer it like this. I don't know why. Generally, I
Okay.
have observed.
So this verse is from Kathopanishad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I am pondering over Sudhanshu Prabhu's question. There are three refutations by Vyastirtha of reflection in the PDF. I did not understand the second argument of reflection. Let me go back then. Hmm. If Brahman is changeless and formless, how can it host changing stages like Jiva and Ishvara? Superimposition implies duality and transformation, which contradicts Advaita's own premises. So,
So this is superimposition. I am asking about reflection theory.
okay,
Above than this, before than this.
before this, okay, reflection. Scriptural contradiction. So, second point is scriptural contradiction.
No, this one. Insentient Vidya cannot reflect sentient Brahman. This.
Insensate avidya cannot reflect sentient Brahman. Okay. So the idea is that Brahman is the only conscious thing. Sat Tattvam Asi. When we say Tattvam Asi, Asi is the only thing that is considered. So the absolute truth, Brahman is the only conscious. Everything else is not conscious. So if everything else is not conscious, how can avidya, being unconscious, reflect the conscious? That is the point he is putting. Is that okay? Any doubts with this?
Vidya is there. They also accept, not that.
Hmm?
They also accept Vidya. So
No,
why?
but they say no, avidya is the cause of you are seeing a rope to be a snake. You are in ignorance, so you are seeing rope to be a snake. When the ignorance is gone, you will understand it was just a rope. Similarly, the variety of this world is an imposition of ignorance on Brahman. Brahman is the only thing. So if the only thing is there, then ignorance on Brahman, or ignorance should happen on Brahman only to create so many of us. So how can ignorance happen on Brahman? That is the biggest question they have to answer. Brahman is changeless. It is avyaya. It cannot be changed. If it is cannot be changed, how can it have ignorance? Avidya. This is the biggest question they have to answer. To answer this question, they are trying to use this theory of reflection. They are trying to use this theory of superimposition. Means that just in pots, how everything is skies reflected. Similarly, Brahma is actually reflected in the material world. That's all. It's not the actual material world which is real. This is how they are saying. Now, reflected in what? To see your reflection, you should have a mirror. There should be dvaita. There should be a second object called mirror. Then only reflection will happen. So, if Brahman is reflected on something, that something should be there. And what is that something? That is avidya, these people are saying. That means there is duality again. There is something other than Brahman, right? So, it cannot reflect Brahman. Brahman is something imperceivable. You cannot perceive Brahman, right? So, if you cannot perceive Brahman, how can it reflect it? Okay. Anything else? Can we move ahead if anything else is, if nothing else is there? Okay.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Will you be able to cover this Brahmavadi also, Prabhuji, in this in this series of
Which
debating?
Brahmavadi? What is the position of
There
Brahmavadi? Okay, I'll
like
prepare for that in
there
the
is a
next.
there is something called like Mayavadi, Brahmavadi.
Hmm.
Like just want to know the subtle differences.
Yeah, I will prepare for it in the next class.
Yes, Prabhu, sure.
Furthermore, is non-duality different from Brahman or is it Brahman itself? First, so is non-duality different? Is Advaita Brahma only or is it different from Brahma? The first proposition is not valid, for this would undermine non-duality. Moreover, by propounding that anything other than Brahman is false, the Shruti would be teaching an untruth. Also, difference would have a real existence Since difference and non-duality being mutually contradictory, the negation of one is invariably accompanied by the assertion of the other. The second proposition is also not valid, for being self-luminous, Brahman is eternally perfect, and hence the scriptures would be futile means to something already accomplished. Moreover, instruction about non-dualism is not possible, for an instructor cannot be ascertained. For instance, does an instructor of non-dualism know the truth or not? In the first case, knowing that the soul is non-dual, one would not see a disciple as being different, nor would instruction to a disciple be possible. In the second case, since one is ignorant, giving instructions on the spiritual knowledge is out of question. Okay, I will read all these things and then I will summarize it so it will become easy. Someone may argue, one may have realized non-duality. One's vision of others as different is a kind of bhada nivritti, just as perception of water in a mirage is just that perception of water in a mirage. Hence, it is not impossible for one to be an instructor. Instruction proposals. The argument is foolish, for it is contradicted by the same illusion. Although the perception of water in a mirage persists, anuvritti, even after being proved false, one does not engage in fetching the water. Similarly, although the vision of difference may persist even after being proved wrong by knowledge of non-duality, one would not engage in giving instructions, since the object of instruction is understood as something false. Therefore, it is an incongruous analogy. Okay. Now I'll give some background to this before explaining this point. See, there are different people who have defined mithya in different ways. When we say Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya. So what we normally think is that Jagat Mithya means the world is false and Brahma is true. But according to the Advaitins, they don't say that world is false. They say world is Mithya. So what is Mithya? So Brahma is Satya. That is very clear. There is no doubt in that. Brahma is Satya. Shasha Vishana is Asatya, or Nara Vishana is Asatya. For example, hare having horns, or do humans have horns? Hare Krishna. Do humans have horns? Just trying to wake up everyone. If somebody is feeling a little bored. So humans don't have horns. That is completely asat, completely false. Okay, you cannot see it, you cannot do logic at it, you cannot have Shastra Pramana for it. There is no Pramana to prove that humans have horns. So it is completely asat. Similarly, Brahma is absolute sat, it is absolute truth. There is no question in that. Now, when you see a silver and you go near and you find that it is just a shell, or when you see a snake and you go near and you find that it is just a rope, in that situation, when you are seeing the silver and still that illusion is not dispelled, at that point of time, is it true? Is it false? Is it sat? Is it asat? Now, if it is asat, then it is not pratyaksha. Pratyaksha is there. No? Pratyaksha is also a valid praman, and pratyaksha is revealing it to you that it is silver. So, it cannot be called asat. It cannot be called sat because there is badha. 5 minutes later, you will see that it was just a shell and not a silver. So anything which has a badha, now I'm seeing something, I'm seeing a laptop. If I realize sometime later that it was not a laptop, it was a mobile phone, that means that it was wrong. It was not the right thing. Correct. So there should not be badha. So the fact that it is badha means it is not sat. Okay. It is not true. The fact that it is perceived, so it is not false also. So it is different from true, it is different from false, it is mithya, a third state different from these two. So that is the definition of mithyātva given by this Shankaracharya. Okay, so the Shankaracharya gives, there are 5 definitions of mithyātva given by 5 Advaita personalities. We will see each of them. all these things are recorded in Nyayamrita. So they say that mithya is sat asat vilakshanatvam mithyatvam. Mithyatva's lakshana is sat asat vilakshana. Means it is different from sat, it is different from asat. That is the idea that is got here. Okay. So that is the definition given by Shankaracharya. So now this definition has a problem. Has certain questions, it has raised certain doubts, this definition. What are the doubts? When we do samasa, vigraha, when we separate the compound words, so sat, asat, vilakshanatva, mithyatva, it is different from truth, truth lies, truth false. Now the question is it difference from truth and false? Is it difference from truth or false? Are you speaking of somebody who is not truth and not false? Or is it different from truth in falsity? Is it different from falsity in truth? Now, one may think that these are just play of words, but no, it's not like that. Which definition you agree with, it has deep spiritual implications on it. That is why I'll explain to you. So, is it different from truth and false? Now, that means there is a problem in that. It is, what is truth? Truth is, what is the only truth? We discussed that. Yes?
Brahman.
Yes, Brahman is the only truth, correct? You are saying there is something different from truth. What is that? Is it a second truth? There is no second, no? So then your philosophy of Sat Asat Vilakshana, if this is the meaning, it fails here. Truth or untruth, it is different. Okay. Now, if that definition is accepted, that it is different, you use or operator there. Truth or untruth, is it different from here? Vyasatirtha had used operators long ago, and or, which are there in present day electronics. So if we say that it is different from truth or untruth, that we know because it is different from untruth, we anyway know that. So there's no, you are not propounding a different theory. You also have accepted our theory in that case, if that is the case, that yeah, all the objects in the material world are different from untruth because they are all true. So if that is your definition, then you have accepted our theory. So this is how he accepts. Now, what about certain other things? Now, all these definitions will lead to, so the first mithya definition which given by Shankaracharya is flawed because either way you have to accept that there is a different entity which is different from Parabrahma. So that is a problem. Now, for this Sureshwar Acharya, he gives a different definition, one of the disciples of Shankaracharya. बाधा समानाधिकरण करण्य लक्षणत्वम मिथ्यात्वम. That which shares the same locus as its negation in a higher state of knowledge. Example, a snake is seen in a rope. A snake seen in a rope is negated when true knowledge arises. Yet both are said to occupy the same locus. Means theory of superimposition, that only one place there is rope. It is superimposed by a snake. So when we see snake. So when the illusion is dispelled, we are actually seeing the rope. So that was mithya which was not dispelled. After dispelling, then the mithya is lost. So the definition of something which can be dispelled is mithya. Okay. Now, so where are we at? We have still not established that the material world is mithya, because one day it will be dispelled and there will be truth. So this definition still doesn't apply to material world. Okay. So the snake rope example doesn't work to the material world still, because if the locus is the same, now we are saying that snake and rope are from the same source, then Brahman and the material world should be from the same source. So how can there be something other than Brahman? So again it fails. This definition also fails. The third definition is that which is indescribable as either real or unreal. It is beyond verbal description. So, mithya is something which is not describable. Then why are you trying to describe it? How can you describe it? So, that is another flaw in the argument of mithyatvam. Okay. So, I will just do these two things and then I will take the question. Badhya yogyatva. Badha yogyatva. That which is capable of being sublated or negated by higher knowledge. So, mithya is something which is negated by higher knowledge. Oh, it means that there is higher knowledge that gives us, Prakash Atman says, that gives us liberation, that gives us nivritti of this jnana. So, that means that something other than Brahman called knowledge is still required. Knowledge is required for nivritti, and that means that knowledge has its existence different from Brahman. That is the thing. Fifth one is pratiti matra satta, that which exists only as appearance and cognition, not in objective reality. Anything which doesn't exist in reality but which perceives is alone this. Now that is where we arrive at this argument. So what he says is that when you question like this, that duality doesn't exist, then there is no need of a guru, there is no need of a disciple, there is no need of a, means guru, if he is teaching sarvam khalu idam brahman, when he is teaching that, does the guru know the subject or no? If the guru knows the subject which he is teaching, if he doesn't know, then he cannot take the post of a guru. If he has to take the post of a guru, first he has to know the subject. So if the guru knows the subject, that everything is Brahman, then he should know that the disciple is also Brahman, he is also Brahman. Then he should not discriminate and take the role of an instructor to his disciple, because he should know the knowledge and he should practice it, that it's all Brahman. So now for this argument, what they respond is that, no, it's not like that. We see mirage on the road. When we see mirage on the road, we are seeing still, but we know that it's just a mirage, there is no water. Initially, first time we may not know. First time we may think it is water, we go near. But once that bada is clear, after that, we know that it's mirage, but we are still seeing, right? We are still seeing the mirage, but we know that. So similarly, Guru knows everything is Brahman, but he's still seeing the disciple. So because of that seeing itself, he continues to give instruction. That is the response. Now, that is this argument of Pratiti Matra Satta. It only appears, it is not real. The Mandan Mishra gives this argument. But no, when we perceive water in a mirage, we don't start doing activities like fetching that water to home. We don't start doing activities like taking a pot and filling it and bringing it to our home. We don't take steps towards that. We know, okay, this is Brahman and there is no, this is illusion, there is no connection with that. We'll just neglect it. Similarly, when the guru knows it's all Brahman, and then disciple is also Brahman, everyone is Brahman, why he is taking steps towards teaching the message and making him realize that he is Brahman? Why is taking steps? He should know that it's all Brahman, right? So the fact that he is taking steps itself proves that there is something which is lacking in him, which has to be fulfilled. Then the actual complete realization will happen. So that is the argument that is given here. Okay. So, okay, now the conclusion of this section is that before going into the conclusion, any questions in this regard, now you can ask.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Why are they giving 5 different definitions of mithya? Means the disciples of Shankaracharya doing Khandan of Shankaracharya only, or what?
So those were the days when Zoom or Copilot or WhatsApp did not exist. So they will hear from Shankaracharya the message, and once they hear from Shankaracharya, they go to their own places. And once they go to their own places, it is on the responsibility on them to define it when questioned. So each of them, based on their yatamati, based on their understanding, have given their own definition, their own understanding of what this is.
So isn't it mental speculation?
Yes, that is where the problem is. No? So Nyayamrita Vyasatirtha very strongly refutes all these arguments. First, he collected all these different definitions and then he refuted them one by one. In the chat. So, can we relate it to the, since Uttama Bhakta sees everyone as Bhakta, he doesn't preach it. Similarly, one who knows everything is Brahman, he should not instruct. No, Uttama Bhakta is, there are three, Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari and Uttama Adhikari. Uttama Adhikari has realized that the Supreme Lord is a person and his consciousness is completely absorbed only in the thoughts of the Supreme Lord. He doesn't compromise on the duality of the material world. Whereas here, what they are saying is that in the highest stage, when you understand Brahman, you understand that there is no need to teach. Actually, Uttama Bhakta doesn't feel there is no need to teach. He is not interested in teaching because he is absorbed in the Lord only. Whereas here, he even feels that there is no need to teach because it's all one. So that is a problematic understanding. Anything else to add to this? Okay. There is one small section which will be done beginning this coming Friday, and after which we will be finishing with Jiva and we'll be getting into Prakriti. 3 more chapters are left, which are small, relatively smaller than what we have done till now. So we will be getting into Prakriti next, another. So the whole book, 92 pages are over, another 40 pages are, 35 pages are left. So these other sections are small. So, okay, then if there are no questions, we will wind up for today. Is that okay? Yes,
So
Roshan.
you were telling about,
Yeah, Mohan Prabhu, please tell me.
you were telling you were reconciling the statements about mithya. So we can say that it's different from truth and false, truth or
Hmm.
false, truth in
Hmm.
false, false in
Hmm.
truth.
Hmm.
These were the four, and one more is what? What is the last
So
combination?
you know some Sanskrit, so I'll tell you. So they have used Tatpurusha Samasa. In Tatpurusha, we have 7 different, right? So they have tried to use Saptami Tatpurusha and Dvitiya Tatpurusha. And they have used Bahuvrihi Samasa or Pitambara Samasa. Sat Asat Vilakshanam means Satcha Asatcha Vilakshanatvam. It's different from both Sat and Asat, a different entity somewhere else. And then they have also used Karmadhare Samasa to do this. So using these samasas, different ways, truth and untruth, truth or untruth, this is the second thing. And some entity who is different from truth and untruth, that is our Bahuri Samasa. And then truth in untruth, that is Saptami Tatpurusha, or untruth in truth. Oh, sorry, Sat in Asat or Asat in Sat, that is Aptami Tatpurusha. Then Karmadharya. So Asat is the, what is that? Lakshana of Sat, means Asat as a Visheshana of Sat. Sat Vishishta Asat or Asat Vishishta Sat. So is it absolute truth which has some special untruth in it? That is Karmadharya Samasa. So he tries to explain it through that also. Means this is all different points, different things thought by Vyasatirtha only. Do you mean this? Do you mean that? Then he has refuted each of them.
Okay, so these all 5 types were about the first mithya, first
Yes,
type of
only
mithya.
first mithyātva.
Okay.
If you are interested, what are the refutations of each of these, I can share it.
I
Roshan.
need to understand first these all.
Yes, Prabhu? Mohan Prabhu?
First, I need to understand these 5. It's difficult.
Roshan Prabhu,
Uh,
you're saying something?
Prabhuji, you were about to give notes of previous class, but you did not send.
Okay, yes, Prabhu. So my notes also I will send. Because these things are shared, the transcripts are shared, but the notes which I have made, I will send it right now, Prabhuji. I am somewhat free today.
Uh,
Right now, I'll send.
will you send the means whole from the starting of Lakshana Pramana, all this, or only previous class and this class? Because
Previous few classes, I have done some proper notes. I will send that. So I have to update the documents which are in Google Drive. So there only I will update the first things about Lakshana and all. So Sanskrit and all I will update there only, Prabhu. So then that will become a proper document because just a minute.